As my father used to say, I accept the nomination. California is prospering. While it faces its share of difficulties, we should never forget the bounty and the endless opportunities bestowed on this special place. Public confidence has also been inspired by your passing, with both Republicans and Democratic votes, pension reform, and don't minimize that. That was a big pension reform. May not be the final one, but it was there, and you did it, Republicans and Democrats. Workers' compensation reform, another vote with Republicans and Democrats there. The water bond, the rainy day fund, and the cap and trade program. And by the way, you Republicans, as I look over here and look over there, don't worry, I got your back. I want to especially thank all the firefighters, the first responders, and the volunteers. These brave men and women answered the call to help their fellow neighbors, in some cases, even when their own homes were burning. I'll convene a task force composed of scientists and knowledgeable forest practitioners to review thoroughly the way our forests are managed and suggest ways to reduce the threat of devastating fires. They'll also consider how California can increase resiliency and carbon storage capacity. I'll shortly provide an expenditure plan for the revenues that the cap and trade auctions have generated. Your renewing this program on a bipartisan basis was a major achievement and will ensure that we will have substantial sums to invest in communities all across the state, both urban and agricultural. In recent years, you have passed historic legislation to manage California's groundwater, which local governments are now implementing. In addition, you passed, and more than two-thirds of the voters approved, a water bond that invests in safe drinking water, conservation, and storage. As a result, we'll soon begin expending funds on some of the storage we've needed for decades. The vote on the gas tax was not easy, but it was essential. The funds that SB 1 makes available are absolutely necessary if we're going to maintain our roads and transit systems in good repair. Fighting a gas tax may appear to be good politics, but it isn't. I will do everything in my power to defeat any repeal effort that gets on the ballot. You can count on that. I make no bones about it. I like trains, and I like high-speed trains even better. So did the voters in 2008 when they approved the bond. President Reagan himself said in Japan on November 11, 1983, the following, and I quote, "The state of California is planning to build a rapid-speed train that is adapted from your highly successful bullet train." Yes, we were, and now we are actually building it. Takes a long time. In education, after seeing 30,000 teachers laid off, spending has dramatically recovered, increasing by $4,600 per student, $31 billion overall. We'll also be able to completely fund the local control funding formula, which directs money to those schools with the greatest challenges. This year's budget proposes to link spending with the local accountability plans so that parents can see how the additional spending supports English learners and students from low-income families. I want to point out that since 2011, the state has increased its annual support of higher education by $5.8 billion. And that's on an annual basis from now on. Even with so many of our students attending college, there's still 2.5 million Californians between 25 and 34 who are in the workforce but lack a post-secondary degree or certificate. These men and women often go out of state and pay high tuition at for-profit institutions to improve their skills and employability. For this group, I want to create the California Online College, so these overlooked Californians can get the training they need conveniently and at very low cost. You can applaud that, I know you will. My plea is relatively straightforward. Take time to understand how our system of crime and punishment has evolved, how other states and countries have devised their prison systems, and what changes might we now make. I urge that instead of enacting new laws because of horrible crimes and lurid headlines, you consider the overall system and what it might need and what truly protects public safety. Our world, our way of life, our system of governance, all are at immediate and genuine risk. Endless new weapons systems, growing antagonism among nations, the poison in our politics, climate change. All of this calls out for courage, for imagination, and for generous dialogue. The spirit of democracy never dies. It's alive in this chamber, in the hearts of Californians, and in people throughout the world. Let this be a great year for California, for our nation, and for our future. Thank you.